right now, like at this exact second, your work laptop is making hundreds of silent connections to the internet.
Oh, easily. Hundreds.
Yeah, it's talking to cloud servers, it's syncing email clients, pinging update services.
Background apps you don't even know are running.
Exactly. And potentially it could be communicating with a command and control server, just, waiting for the signal to detonate ransomware.
Right, which is the nightmare scenario.
And you wouldn't know it's happening until it's way too late. But today, we're doing a deep dive into a document that claims it can stop that detonation milliseconds before it happens.
Completely autonomously, too.
Right, and that's a massive claim. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a highly dense product one-pager today from Intrusion Inc., and it details their platform called Shield Endpoint.
It's a really fascinating piece of source material. It represents a massive shift in how the industry is approaching security, and the goal here is to really decode the mechanisms they're proposing.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we all know the old, castle and moat security analogy is, well, it's completely dead.
Oh, long gone, yeah.
You're probably listening to this on a network your IT department doesn't even control. Remote work essentially killed the traditional perimeter.
It did. The perimeter just dissolved.
Right. But this intrusion document takes that reality a step further. It argues that if everyone is working from a coffee shop or an airport or their home office, our laptops and our Android phones literally are the perimeter now.
They are the front line.
Exactly. So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out exactly how endpoint protection is evolving to handle that. We want to get past all the marketing buzzwords.
And there are plenty of them in this space.
Oh, so many. Things like zero trust and autonomous network enforcement. We want to get past that to understand the actual engineering at play for you, the listener.
Right. And to understand the engineering, we first have to look at the fundamental flaw in traditional models that this one-pager is responding to.
The old way of doing things.
Exactly. Historically, endpoint security things like endpoint detection and response, or EDR, has been heavily focused on detection.
Okay.
EDR is essentially a very sophisticated set of cameras inside the house. It's looking for behavior.
So it's watching what happens inside the machine.
Right. It waits for a file to drop onto the hard drive,
Right.
or it watches for a process to start executing in a suspicious way, and then it flags it.
Okay. So it's waiting for the malicious activity to actually begin before it tries to intervene. It's totally reactive.
Exactly. The baseline assumption is that breaches will happen, so the system just needs to be really good at catching them quickly.
Right, minimizing the damage.
Yes. But Shield Endpoint proposes a prevention-first architecture.
Prevention first.
Right. The objective isn't to clean up after the threat has already established a foothold. It is to intercept the communication at the network layer before the threat can ever establish persistence.
Wow.
Yeah, before it can retrieve its payloads or exfiltrate your data. What's fascinating here is the scale they are claiming to achieve this at.
Because if traditional EDR is like a burglar alarm that only triggers after the thief has already, smashed the window.
Right, and they're walking around your living room.
Exactly. Then this system is acting more like a bouncer. It's standing out on the street, checking the IDs of absolutely everyone trying to get near the property line and denying entry before they even touch the door handle.
That's a great way to visualize it, a hyper-vigilant bouncer. But the sheer mechanics making that bouncer effective is what's notable in the text.
How so?
Well, this autonomous prevention is fueled by Intrusion's proprietary threat intelligence platform. The document states that the platform continuously evaluates both inbound and outbound communications against a database covering more than 8.5 billion IP addresses.
Wait, I have to push back on that. 8.5 billion IP addresses.
The document says, yeah.
But as a remote worker, my machine is making constant connections. I'm on a video call. I'm syncing massive files to cloud storage. I've got, 30 browser tabs open right now.
Right, it's a constant stream of traffic.
Yeah. So if this bouncer is meticulously checking every single connection against a database of 8.5 billion records, how does that not cause massive latency?
It sounds like it would, right?
It sounds like it would just grind the endpoint device to an absolute halt. You can't just cram an 8.5 billion rows spreadsheet onto a laptop's RAM.
You absolutely cannot. And that's the core engineering challenge of this kind of network security. Now, the document doesn't explicitly map out the source code, but mechanically, to achieve this without latency, you don't download the entire database to the endpoint.
Okay, so where does it live?
The database represents a massive, historically rich, global reputation platform sitting up in the cloud.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, and the endpoint just utilizes a very lightweight local agent.
Okay, so how do they talk to each other fast enough?
So when your device tries to make a connection, that agent intercepts the DNS request or the IP routing. It likely checks a small hyperlocal cache of known active threats first.
Like a short list of the usual suspects.
Exactly. And if it needs to query the main database, it does so using blazing fast cloud-native lookups.
So the heavy lifting is offloaded to the cloud infrastructure, not burning up my laptop's CPU.
Precisely. And because it's making these decisions based on the reputation of the IP address rather than like deeply inspecting every single packet of data for malware signatures.
That takes forever.
Right. The decision is almost instantaneous. If the infrastructure attempting the communication is historically known to be a bad actor, say, an IP block associated with a known ransomware syndicate, the connection is just severed at the network layer.
Just cut off immediately.
Instantly.
But see, that creates an immediate engineering problem on the flip side.
How so?
If the platform is this aggressive about blocking untrusted traffic, how do the good guys actually get in? I mean, I'm looking at the document and it says Shield Endpoint is built on an identity-centric zero-trust overlay architecture, powered by NetFoundry technology.
Yeah, that is a wall of buzzwords.
It's a total wall of buzzwords.
Oh.
So break that down for me. How does an overlay actually function in the real world without completely locking a remote worker out of their own company's network?
Let's strip away the buzzwords. Think of traditional VPNs, virtual private networks.
Sure, everyone uses those.
Right. A VPN connects your remote laptop directly to the corporate network. It essentially punches a hole through the firewall, and once you're in, you can usually see a lot of the internal network.
You're just wandering the halls.
Exactly. The problem is, if your laptop gets compromised at a coffee shop, the malware rides that VPN tunnel right into the corporate data center.
Because the network blindly trusts the device once it's inside the walls.
Right. It assumes you belong there. But a zero-trust overlay flips that completely.
Okay.
An overlay is a software-defined invisible fabric sitting on top of the physical internet. It doesn't connect you to the network broadly. It authenticates you and your specific device and then creates a secure, highly encrypted pathway exclusively to the specific application you are authorized to use.
Oh, I see. So it's essentially creating a private, invisible VIP tunnel just for me and my authorized app.
Yes.
And the rest of the corporate network remains completely dark to my laptop.
That's exactly it. And crucially, it does this without exposing any of those internal corporate services to the public internet at all.
They're just hidden.
Completely hidden. The corporate server isn't sitting there with open inbound ports waiting for connections, which means it can't be scanned or attacked by random bots on the internet. It only accepts connections from the authenticated overlay fabric.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If we connect this to the bigger picture of what this document is claiming, the reason this overlay is so powerful isn't actually just about letting good authenticated traffic in.
Right.
Because the one-pager places an intense focus on controlling outbound communication, meaning my computer trying to talk out to the internet.
Yes, that is a massive point in the text.
So why is outbound control the secret weapon here?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, outbound control disrupts the modern attack kill chain.
Okay, walk us through that.
When you look at how catastrophic breaches actually unfold, the initial compromise is rarely some, sophisticated brute force hack from the outside.
Like in the movies.
Right, it's never that. It's almost always human error. An employee falls for a phishing email, or they accidentally click a malicious link.
And the hacker gets a tiny foothold on the machine.
Yes. But that tiny script that gets downloaded, it doesn't usually contain the entire ransomware payload. It's just a scout.
It's too small.
Exactly. To do any real damage, that script must phone home. It has to make an outbound connection to the public internet to reach its command and control servers, what the industry calls C2 callbacks.
Right.
It needs to ask the attacker, hey, I'm in, what do you want me to do? And then it needs to download the encryption keys or, silently start exfiltrating the company's financial data.
And this is where that 8.5 billion IP database comes back into play.
Exactly. Shield Endpoint is specifically designed to choke off that outbound connection. Yeah, when that hidden malicious script tries to reach out to a server on the dark web, the local agent checks the destination. The database instantly recognizes the IP as malicious infrastructure, and the outbound communication is just blocked.
Dead in its tracks.
Dead in its tracks. The script can't get instructions, it can't download the payload, the attack is entirely neutralized, even though the user made the mistake of clicking the link in the first place.
That is a massive safety net. The document actually explicitly lists the specific threats this outbound control reduces exposure to. It mentions ransomware communications, malware delivery infrastructure, phishing, and data exfiltration attempts.
It covers a lot of ground.
It really does. So we've established how the system handles known bad actors. They get instantly blocked by the reputation database. And we know how it handles known good connections. They get that highly secure, zero-trust VIP tunnel.
Right.
But that leaves a massive gray area. Exactly. What happens when a user clicks a link to a completely unknown, unrated website? Something that isn't on the good list, but hasn't done enough damage yet to end up on the bad list.
That is one of the most critical challenges in cybersecurity right now, because brand new, zero-day malicious infrastructure spins up literally every single minute.
Right. Attackers are constantly making new domains.
Exactly. And the document addresses this by introducing what they call the Safe Web Sandbox.
This is where the documentation makes a pretty bold claim about integrated browser isolation.
Wow.
Walk us through how this mechanically protects the device without just, blocking the user from doing their job. Because you can't just block everything unknown.
No, you can't. Users would riot. So when a user navigates to high-risk web content or a totally unfamiliar destination, the system treats it as untrusted by default.
Okay.
But instead of throwing up a block page and frustrating an employee who might legitimately need that site for research, the Safe Web Sandbox allows the content to execute.
Wait, it lets it run?
It does. It just doesn't let it execute on the user's actual laptop.
Okay, so where is it executing?
Within an isolated, secure, cloud-rendered infrastructure. The active web code, the HTML, the JavaScript, all the potentially dangerous stuff is open and run inside a disposable container on a remote cloud server.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the user's endpoint simply receives a stream of visual pixels, almost like watching an interactive video feed of the website.
That's wild. So to picture this for you listening, if I click a highly suspicious link and this isolation tech is running, it's basically like handling a mysterious, potentially dangerous package. But I'm doing it inside a reinforced bomb-proof box out in the middle of a desert.
I love that analogy.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if the package completely explodes and unleashes a zero-day virus, my actual laptop, which is sitting on my kitchen table, doesn't get a single scratch. The explosion was contained entirely in the cloud, and then the cloud server just wipes itself clean.
Exactly. The bomb-proof box in the desert is a great way to picture it. The blast radius is entirely contained away from the local network.
That's incredibly smart.
It is, and the document highlights why this is so vital. It severely limits credential harvesting campaigns.
How so?
Well, if an attacker spins up a fake Office 365 login page to steal passwords, and it hasn't been flagged as bad yet in the database, the sandbox isolates it. If there is malicious code embedded in the site trying to scrape session tokens, it's trapped in that cloud container. It never touches your local browser.
And beyond just protecting the user, there is a massive operational benefit here for the IT department. Let's talk about the SecOps teams, the security operations professionals who actually have to manage all this stuff day to day.
Oh, SecOps teams are currently drowning in what's known as alert fatigue.
Alert fatigue?
Yeah. In a traditional EDR setup, every time a user clicks a slightly weird link or a heuristic scanner flags a potentially suspicious background process, an alert is generated.
And someone has to look at it.
Exactly. An analyst has to manually investigate it to see if it's a real threat or just a false positive. When you're fielding thousands of these a day, things inevitably slip through the cracks.
You just get numb to the alarms.
You do.
Yeah.
But by autonomously isolating unknown threats in the sandbox and instantly blocking known bad IPs at the network layer, the system drastically reduces the sheer volume of noise the SecOps team has to deal with.
They only see what really matters.
Precisely.
Which brings us to how this architecture actually gets deployed in the real world. Because having a massive database and a cloud sandbox is great, but, if it takes 6 months to install on every laptop, it's useless.
Right. Deployment is everything.
And a one-pager heavily emphasizes that Shield Endpoint is a lightweight deployment. It's managed centrally via what they call the Intrusion Command Hub.
The Command Hub provides centralized reporting, policy management, and AI-powered insights. This gives administrators unified visibility across all remote deployments, even if those devices are sitting on, unmanaged home Wi-Fi networks.
The target audience listed in the doc makes a lot of sense given that architecture. They're obviously targeting remote and hybrid workforces and the SecOps teams trying to protect them. But the document prominently calls out MSPs and MSSPs.
Managed service providers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, managed service providers and managed security service providers. Why is an MSP the ideal customer for this specific type of platform?
Because MSPs face an incredibly unique logistical nightmare. Think about it. An internal IT team only has to manage one company's network.
Right?
An FSP might be responsible for managing the IT and security for 50 different businesses simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, all with different needs, different legacy software, and different compliance requirements. Shield Endpoint's centralized architecture allows an MSP to deliver scalable zero-trust protection across all those multi-tenant environments from a single pane of glass.
So they don't have to log into 50 different portals.
Exactly, without having to configure complex firewalls at 50 different physical offices.
What does this all mean? Because Intrusion's documentation is clearly aiming at these enterprise buyers and MSPs, right down to their deployment strategies.
Yeah.
But the most revealing part of their market positioning is the comparison chart at the very end of the document.
Yes, that chart is crucial.
They pitch Shield Endpoint directly against what they call typical SaaS and zero-trust clients. For anyone not living and breathing network architecture, SaaS stands for Secure Access Service Edge.
Yes, SaaS. It's a framework that essentially converges wide area networking and network security services into a single cloud-delivered model.
It's basically the industry's answer to the death of the perimeter.
Exactly. And the chart shows that both Shield Endpoint and typical SaaS clients share baseline capabilities, like providing off-network protection and centralized visibility.
But the divergence happens when the document compares the advanced features. They list 5 critical areas where Shield Endpoint claims native capability, whereas typical SaaS solutions only offer policy-dependent capability.
Right.
Those areas are the identity-centric overlay, reputation-first autonomous enforcement,
Yeah.
unknown infrastructure enforcement via the Sandbox, integrated browser isolation, and autonomous outbound communication control.
That's a mouthful.
It really is. So let's break down that terminology. What is the actual operational difference between policy-dependent and autonomous native enforcement?
This raises an important question, and honestly, that distinction is the crux of their entire argument. In the world of IT management, policy-dependent means a human being is the bottleneck.
How so?
A network administrator has to manually write a rule. They have to explicitly tell the firewall, if traffic is coming from this specific port and going to this specific domain, block it.
So it requires human foresight. You have to know the attack is coming, or at least understand its shape, to write a policy against it.
Exactly. And human beings simply cannot write rules fast enough to keep up with millions of automated, constantly morphing cyber threats. It takes time, it requires constant maintenance, and frankly, it's highly prone to configuration errors.
Somebody makes a typo and the whole network goes down.
Right. But autonomous native enforcement, which is Shield's approach, means the intelligence is baked directly into the platform's DNA. The system is making instantaneous decisions based on continuous mathematical evaluations of reputation and behavior, querying those 8.5 billion IPs without waiting for a human administrator to write a specific rule.
So the system isn't waiting for instructions.
Yeah.
It has the authority to just act.
Correct. That autonomous nature is exactly why Intrusion uses the tagline, zero trust, zero compromise.
I see.
Yeah, by removing the human bottleneck, it controls communication at machine speed, blocking the malicious and isolating the untrusted before persistence or data exfiltration can even occur.
It fundamentally changes the math of defending a network. So, to quickly recap the journey we've been on for you listening, we started by breaking down why the traditional detection-based model of security is struggling to protect a modern distributed workforce.
It waits for the break-in.
Exactly. We explored how Intrusion's Shield Endpoint flips that to a network layer prevention-first model. We looked at the mechanics of querying a massive 8.5 billion IP database using lightweight agents to stop bad traffic instantly without destroying device performance.
Which is key.
Yeah. We unpacked how the identity-centric zero-trust overlay creates secure, invisible tunnels for legitimate corporate work, and how the Safe Web Sandbox uses pixel trimming to isolate unknown zero-day threats out in the cloud.
The bomb-proof box.
The bomb-proof box in the desert. And crucially, we explored why choking off outbound communications is the ultimate safety net against a human clicking the wrong link. It's really about bringing enterprise-grade, SASE-level protection directly to Windows and Android devices, completely autonomous from human policy writing.
It is a really comprehensive framework for navigating an incredibly hostile digital landscape. But analyzing this document leaves us with a critical, bigger picture question regarding the future of the industry.
What was that?
Well, if endpoint security platforms are becoming this completely autonomous if they are making instantaneous machine speed decisions to block connections based on billions of data points, and rendering unknown threats in disposable cloud sandboxes without needing a human to intervene or write a policy, how does the role of the human cybersecurity professional actually evolve?
That is a fascinating point.
Right. Do we eventually shift entirely away from the classic model of hunting and analyzing threats, and instead do SecOps teams simply become managers and auditors of the AI that hunts the threats for them?
That is a fantastic and provocative question to leave on. Because the technology is clearly advancing faster than our traditional job descriptions. The physical castle and the moat, they're completely gone. But the invisible autonomous defenses being built around our laptops right now are arguably much more complex and much more resilient. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep challenging the buzzwords, and keep exploring the hidden architecture of the technology you rely on every single day. We will see you next time.